Hi guys, my name is Lelasophia. I am an artist and fine jewelry designer. If you like contemporary fine jewelry, if you like luxury handbags, all things interiors, and I have some fun videos for you. You guys, okay, honestly, very humbly, hopefully I say this has been a genuinely very much so requested video. Kind of to my surprise, no, that sounds like I'm trying to be humble, but truly to my surprise, so many of you have been asking how I started my own business. I feel like this is a very hard video for me to film because if you know me, if you're new here, hello, my name is Lelasophia and I really like to go in depth into details about things. I have a little bit of an issue. However, I'm going to try so hard to actually make a concise video because I know that's what you guys are looking for more so. After this video, however, if you really have questions or like background questions or more in-depth questions, please let me know because we can make this a cute little series. This is gonna be the intro. I'm gonna try my hardest. This may be my third time filming this because she got really rambly already, as is happening again, clearly. We're gonna go into how I personally started my own business, a little bit of tips and tricks, but really just kind of my own journey that hopefully will be relatable. But first and foremost, if you guys are new here, thank you so much for tuning in. I can't wait to see you in all of my future videos. Make sure that you like this video, subscribe to my channel, follow me on Instagram at lelasophia jewelry. I put up videos every Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday, and so I cannot wait to see you guys in the next one. Okay, so I actually have written down bullet points so I actually don't go off of them. Again, first of all, hello, my name is Lelasophia. I have a fine jewelry business. I started my business 4 years and 2 months ago. It was my little 4-year anniversary in March, which is kind of my anniversary month, I think. Honestly, I've been working in the fine jewelry industry this is my 11th year, again, 11 years and a little bit. I started working in the industry when I was 19. I had an amazing first opportunity. Honestly, that is important for me to talk about because I started working for a designer in the Lower East Side in New York while I was a sophomore in college. All of my friends were getting corporate. You know, you guys know I'm originally, or again, not all of you guys know, but I'm originally a musician. I studied music and singing, songwriting, the whole nine. I went to jazz school. I went to the New School for Jazz and Contemporary Music. And so while all of my friends were, out here doing corporate gigs and backup gigs and singing and, dancing and playing for Beyonce and freaking Solange Knowles and everybody cool and Bilal and all the cool people, I was over here like, I'm not pivoting, but I really wanted to kind of, I don't know if it's like, I also have always been very interested in the arts. I studied music. That music was if you know me from 5 years ago, my entire life, you know me as the singer. That's how you know me, and it's wild to me to have like not transition, I always joke that I'm retired, but not to transition out of it because music is always there. I sing in my house constantly, don't worry, and I kind of stopped doing little gigs here and there, but music is always there. It's always going to come back. But not my second love, the true, I think, other part of that was always fine arts. And then kind of the little part, the little offshoot category of fine arts was always fashion. And I say this only to say that I think it's a slightly important part of my little journey story. Again, I can do a whole other video on like my actual background, whatever, in the future. So please let me know. I always give credit to my dear Aunt Susan, my mom's sister, who literally from you guys, it's hard for me to conceptualize but literally I remember from when I was 10, she saw me struggling as a plus size. I always have been a larger kid. I've been larger bodied my entire life. And I think she really saw the inception of me kind of either being bullied or being talked about or whatever in a negative way, but still really wanting to dress well or wanting to somehow of course, you're a kid, wanting to compete or wanting to not compete, but wanting to dress the same as all other cool girl in middle school and high school. She saw that from a really young age, and she so quickly, kudos to her. One day I hope, God willing, to do the same thing for my own future kids or a niece or nephew that I see, in a similar or having some sort of struggle, hopefully not, but if, it shouldn't be looked at as struggling. What she did was pivoted me and started gifting me fine jewelry, introduced me to not fine jewelry, but started, you know, started introducing me to the jewelry world. She started gifting me Tiffany, and my mom started doing that. And so the two of them like literally guided me in a way that felt so positive, that felt so celebratory, that wasn't as much focused on clothes, because I ended up crying in a lot of dressing rooms. You know what I mean? That was a horrible part of my childhood. And then the most beautiful thing about that is that I really got to explore jewelry, and that became how I expressed myself in middle school and high school. And then in college, thank God, I like, college literally saved me, like genuinely, because all of my friends were artists. All of my friends were the kid that I was, but in their high school. I mean, I'm sure some of my friends were like really cool people in high school, but they were that person in their own high school, in their own hometown or whatnot. And so when I was 19, I said to myself, I don't really want, it wasn't in me to be doing corporate gigs. I also just like, I don't know, it wasn't in me to do that. And I really was very curious about the fine jewelry industry. And so I worked for the very first designer that I figured out that I loved, and she sculpted all of her pieces by hand. And my mind was blown. Here I am, just barely 19 years old, like, you can do that. Like, long story short, I fell in love. And it wasn't like I learned the business in 1 year. I really said to myself, like, something's here. Something is here, which leads me to my very first point, which I know I got off to a rambly start, but I feel like you have to know a little bit of my background to know me, because that in itself, having a mom and an aunt who were so incredibly supportive of something that of a passion of mine, of an excitement of mine, I'm the most, I think it's a wildly incorrect, it's a massive, massive, massive privilege. And not to, you guys know I love to put everything in a positive light, but I do have, you know, I had the experience when I was a teenager of meeting, you know, my family, my Moroccan family, for the first time. And literally, I didn't understand how heart-wrenching, how heart-shattering it was to have a parent that didn't support you. I didn't understand that until I was 15, and all of a sudden I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't know how amazing I've had it. Again, maybe typical like foreigner parent, I don't know, typical something, but it was really hard to hear from my own father's mouth for the first time, meeting him, you know, as like an actual teenager or adult, him say, you're not into math or science. Okay, don't really care about what you have to say then. Again, I am so grateful for that experience, because truly, like, I'm learning to say that is just something that is not my own preference. I don't ever want to make somebody feel that way. So what a blessing that I know how it feels to be supported by my mom and my aunt and my stepdad. Like, what an incredible, incredible experience. So honestly, that I do have to say, because I feel incredibly privileged to have been supported emotionally in wanting to be the weird kid, in wanting to be the creative little soul that I apparently was born into this world as being. Because the very first, like, it's very hard for me to say this point and not give that background story, because I can say this and yet not, it's very hard to actually have it practiced. But the biggest thing in starting a business is, what do you like? What do you love? What is your highest excitement? What is your highest passion? Because if you don't have that, like, I joke about this, but maybe I did have some weird idea, because from being a musician, you really are your own brand. And it seems like kind of weird concept. And then you realize that, like, humans have only been working 9 to 5s for like a very short period of time. You know what I mean? Like, before 9 to 5 work culture, you were yourself, you were your art, you were your work. If you were a poet, not necessarily saying that you got paid for it, not necessarily that you know, had some fanciful, beautiful artists, you know, don't get paid until they die. You know what I mean? Like, that is a very real world thing. But it's just, I don't know. Again, you see already how weird my little brain is, but knowing myself as a brand has never not been that way, I think, for a really long time, even in middle school and high school, when I was working really hard, doing all these, you know, outside music competitions and little choirs and weird things, and like really putting myself in a very competitive like field, first of all, but also in such a unique field where like nobody's gonna sound like me. I don't sound like anybody. Nobody's gonna paint like I did. Nobody's gonna draw like I did or make a sculpture like I did or whatnot. And so I was very much so used to being a brand or embodying something, having myself then, you know, translate to the way that I dress, translate to the way that or the things that I speak about, or the things that I like again, studying ancient human, like, you know what I mean? Like that makes a lot of sense to me because my art is all about ancient humans. It's all about ancient cultures. It's all about understanding my own culture, my own Moroccan heritage, which I'm getting ahead of myself, but don't fully comprehend all the time how embodied my own brand is in my own life until this very video where I start to talk about it. And I'm sure that there are exceptions to this rule, that there are some people who are just really good at something that maybe don't like it as much, but somehow are just like very adept at a skill or something and become wildly successful. But for me, the advice that I would give to a friend or to, again, my future children or to anybody who I'm talking to, if you don't love what you are starting, find something that you do and start that, because for me, I know this is because I'm like stuttering because it's a big statement, but a brand can really truly become your entire life, or your entire life can become your brand. And so being passionate about it like means that I'm totally okay staying up until 10 or 11 at night working on a piece because I have to get it out of my brain. I have to get it out of my brain and onto wax. Like I have to start sculpting it. I have to do that. My God, the amount of hours that I've spent working on my line sheets, working on my website, working on my something at 1 or 2 in the morning, like it's because I want to, and it's because I care very much so about having a consistent through line, which I guess should be another point in itself, in my clients or any outward facing, you know, person's view of my brand. It's very important to me. And so if I can know that there's a difference between a feeling of, oh, I want to get this done, and oh, I need to do this, I'm so grateful to say that truly along the way, I've always had I need to get this out here. I need to get this. I'm so excited to be working on this new thing, or I have a deadline for this piece or whatnot. I've been so genuinely blessed and grateful to be doing each and every little element. And that is because I think that even if it was over the course of 15 years, maybe 17 years, I probably had a dream of having my own jewelry line when I was like 12 years old, to be really honest, like a very long time. I just feel so blessed to have made it happen in some weird little tiny niche way. That is my first point. Love, 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 whatever it is that you have an idea that you feel called to be starting a business on. That first and foremost, that is the biggest point. Technical points now, because I know this is not what you guys want to be hearing. We want to hear the nitty gritty. Okay, I know. I will give you the me version of the nitty gritty, which is probably some esoteric thing. Okay, so you came to me, so you're gonna get the most lelasophia answers of all time. The next thing is figuring out what kind of product are we doing. Are you the product? Again, like being an artist, being a musician, writing songs is a product. It is not a physical product, but that is certainly a product. Or is it a physical product? One of my friends owns Calvin James. You're amazing. I have several friends that own their own business, and Calvin is like one who we talk back and forth several times, whatever it is, often, where it's not necessarily about our businesses, but I just like seeing someone genuinely put out their ideas that he has had and make physical products is so cool, because it's really hard to be on the other side of it, knowing all the little details and being stressed about everything. But when you actually see someone's product, not while still seeing their thought or kind of understanding their thought process, but not being in their head to understand all that went into it, is such a cool thing. And I also have friends who put out poetry books, who put out zines, who put out records, who put out EPs. Figure out which product it is that you feel called to release into the world, whether it's physical, whether it's digital. Then there's a weird kind of breakdown that I can't tell you that I don't exactly know because it has to be very specific to that product. Understanding how and when to fabricate that product, again, whether it's a physical piece or whether it is something like recording, you know, whether it's recording a poetry book or whether it is making an ebook or making, which is something that's really cool that I would totally do one day, but maybe in the future, figure out the first step, whether that is getting a manufacturer, whether that is getting a graphic designer. Literally, when I tell you, again, this is why I really need to do like an inception video of like how I started my business, because this is my second business. I started a physical fine jewelry store prior to this with my family, but you know, I was really in the nitty-gritty every single day. I started an entire store with a logo and an email address. Literally, I was sending out emails and the thing with just ideas that I had, like just ideas that I had, and I somehow was able to, like, literally, you know, with just a story, with something that I was extraordinarily passionate about, I was able to connect some of my favorite designers who I had been, like, literally, I don't know, idolizing for years and years and years, with a logo, with a brand color, which is still my same brand color. I still have the same Pantone color, which I just made a reel about, joking, like, my entire life I've made in the same vein, the same color. And it sounds really stupid, but my entire life is enveloped with my brand. Figuring out where to start could be just as easy as having a website handle. Like, honestly, I didn't even build out my website before I started sending out emails to designers to get them to be a part of my store. It sounds crazy to me too, trust me, and I was the one doing it 6 years ago. I don't know how I did it, to be really honest. The same thing with my jewelry line. Then when I started my own jewelry line, literally I said to myself, what will it take? What will it take? It was the first week of COVID, and I had not sat down in 2 years, 3 years, however many years prior to that, starting my own business. I was in a rabbit hole of craziness. Honestly, I said to myself, okay, I can't sit still. I can now, I've worked on myself, but I couldn't sit still at the time. I was so anxious about wanting my store to succeed. I really couldn't. I said, okay, if COVID is going to kill this, if COVID's going to kill New York City real estate, I'm coming out with my own brand that I've wanted to do my entire life. What is something that will withstand the test of time, that I could have for 20 years from now? What is the thing that I've been wanting to do that I was always so afraid to do? I thought I had to go through like 3 years of fine jewelry school to be able to do that. I said, what will it take? One YouTube video is what it took. Can I do this myself? Can I figure this out myself? It took one try of me physically, which I do have a background of sculpting, so that's why I also, another privilege, which I can't leave out of this story. I had an artist background. I had a sculpting background. I had years of art classes, and then I taught art. Like, I literally had such a privilege of having so many incredible resources that I didn't understand would translate, that I was afraid I wanted some like specialty degree to be able to get into the nitty-gritty, because I think that's how our society works, is like, we can't do this until you need another specification. You need another degree. You need to go to a night school for this. You need to understand this. Or you could just go onto YouTube. You could just go onto YouTube and watch 80 videos like I did. The very first wax that I got, I said, you love clay. Waxes is different. It's very hard. It's like plastic. What us jewelers, when a jeweler hand makes something, it's usually hand sculpting or hand carving. I've now been doing both in jeweler's wax, which is a very interesting material to be working in. I always say, you guys are always asking to see the process. I'm not there yet in my, like, I'm not there yet to be showing myself like hunched over a bench, like doing my whole little process. Maybe I'll work on on showing that side of myself where I'm sweaty and like putting the piece down and, you know, for hours and figuring out a piece. I just said to myself, you've done it before. You figured it out before. The very first me touching my tools, me touching the wax, I said, I can do this. I can do this. And I think that it starts with that. And that's such a specific jewelry thing. I know I'm sure the people who are asking are not just asking about jewelry, but figuring out what material you're going to work with, figuring out whether you're going to be the one working. It was very, still to this day, I have only had 3 pieces where I had to outsource and have a master wax carver carve, and that was my Venus collection, because those pieces were literal ancient human I mean, a lot of the pieces that I do are inspired by ancient human history, but this was an ode to ancient figurines. I had to have a map, like I had to have someone who was going to do it perfectly. Other than that, the other 120 something pieces that I've ever made have been, it's very important to me to have them be physically with my own hands, to not have any machinery. I want to honor my people. I really want to honor my Moroccan heritage. I really want to honor the way the jewelry was made in ancient times, and that's what I want my brand ethos to be. That can be a different category because it's so specific to me that I think me talking about my ethos wouldn't really help anybody. I'm not sure, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but genuinely, even something like that, understanding where to start, but understanding what your concepts are and what you're okay with them being. Again, apparently I'm talking about you this entire video, but my friend Calvin, like, he's probably much better at having an idea and being able to explain that to a manufacturer, being able to explain that, like, whether you're a designer, my fashion friends who sketch pieces and then make them all themselves, or sketch pieces and then have an atelier make them, understanding what I was gonna say values, but like what your own boundaries would be is a really good way to say it. And then working within those constraints. Like, I'm aware, I knew what I wanted at least my pieces to look like. And I knew I did not want them to be CAD designs. Genuinely no offense to CAD. Like, it's just a completely different thing. I wanted them to feel literal, handmade. I wanted them to feel like you could dig them up and be like, oh my God, is this a 3,000-year-old piece, or is this lelasophia jewelry? Like, and I hope that's I hope that's like not, gassing myself or offensive. I wanted it to be what I wanted it to be. That's a very, very, very important thing. Because again, if you want to make an ebook on self-help, but you want it to be from your voice, it makes a lot of sense that you would make it yourself. That it would be kind of, not rough, but it would be organic, it would be natural, it would feel natural. But if you want to make it so that it is step by step, so that it is perfectly, aligned and has these beautiful, crisp, white lines, because that's what you like to read, getting a graphic designer makes a lot of sense. Understand your voice and your boundaries, and then how to work within those constraints to make what you're desiring in your brain. Investing, and I know I'm aware of the questions that you guys probably want, so maybe we should do this. Please write very specific questions down below, because I can be more specific. You guys just gave me like free range to talk about this, because you know me, I'm gonna be way more like esoteric with my answers, as I already said. Annoyingly so. So write any questions down for me down below, because I can talk more specifically, but I know you probably want to hear numbers and everything, and I can give you some, but really, like, honestly, my actual advice is knowing how much time you're going to be investing, which really is just all my first point. You will put time. You will put a lot of time, like that famous meme, or like famous meme, as if it's like existed for more than 5 years, but literally that famous saying that's like, I didn't want to work a 9 to 5, so now I have my own brand and work 24/7. Could not be more true, but I desire that very much so, because even if it's a rest day, even if it's a rest period, even if, and this is my weird part, exactly, even if there's periods of me knowing that I should sit down and let the universe give me ideas, that I should sit down and do research, that I should sit down and just stare at a bunch of Pinterest images for 2 hours, like, know that the time that you will invest will be great. Know that it will be incredibly consuming. If this is truly what, like, building an entire, I guess this is not even just building a brand, but like really building a brand that is yourself as well, which I think is a really cool concept, actually. I've actually heard that conceptualized as to how, like, human society is going, the direction that we're heading into, that like we more so are the currency, which I really like. That's a little side note. Investing money, of course, is very, you know, that's the duh thing. that honestly, that is kind of a very difficult scale to talk about, not because I don't want to talk about money, but I have invested minimally, like minimally. And again, that goes back to my most previous point, which is knowing your boundaries, knowing what it is that you want to create. I knew that I wanted to start somewhere, and I knew that I wanted to work in precious metals, but I knew that I wanted to make it affordable is not the word. I knew that I wanted to make it the approachable side of fine jewelry, let's say, and perhaps have a little bit of a range someday in the future. But I knew the material that I wanted to work in, and I knew my first investment goals and kind of, you know, budget, but I didn't necessarily budget, but I knew that I wanted to not ever, I'm gonna go ahead and say this on camera. I knew that I never wanted to invite outside investors. I knew that everything, it was very important for me from the beginning to always, always, always work on my own time and my own money. And so that is why I think I've really appreciated the pace that I've gone at, because investing in gold is no small thing, especially recently, but investing in fine jewelry in general, I knew that I was already cutting so many costs by doing all of the design work for free myself, having that be a part of my investment, which is why I'm talking about this. So that I think is a very understanding the time. Again, I guess that does, sorry, kind of not answer the actual question, but knowing how much time you will invest for the investment's sake, like you could say for free, but how much time you'll put into something is very important, how much you're willing to do that, because it will actually affect the end product, the end result. First of all, my camera, I just had to offload my little memory card for a second, which perfectly goes into my next point. Look at God. Okay, listen, you can't make these things up, so I'm sorry if I'm in a different spot, if my camera's in a different spot, what have you. The next point, the last point, again, for just this video that I think ties everything together, is genuine, patience is not even the word, is a knowing that something that you love, something that is along the lines of, or that is your highest excitement or highest passion, will be fruitful. That's a positive way to say it, I think. Knowing that this is like the weird side of me. So again, this is probably not what anybody was ever asking for in this video, but I feel like I just have a knowing in my soul, something that like, I am not Chrome Hearts, you know what I mean? I am not Foundry yet. I am none of these like generational, you know, businesses that Beth from Founder will be able to, if she wants to, pass down an entirely and wildly, again, fruitful, I'll say, company to her children. And Chrome Hearts has already been able to do that. I like using those two examples because they're family owned, still designed in-house. That is a very, very big point, because even though, yes, that has not been in this exact, you know, moment, I really, really, really trust. I really, really, really trust the universe. And I think that is the number one biggest thing, because I used to say that, like, I can't believe I'm talking about there, or I'm giving some actual examples, but someone like my older stepbrother is such a creative human being. And my younger brother too, you guys know Dylan. They're both such creative men. And yet I think I've always said that you have to have a little bit of craziness to want to start your own business. You have to have a little bit of craziness to be an artist. You have to have a little bit of that to be in the world that I am in. And I think I've been misnaming that, because I think it's actually just having a massive amount of trust in yourself, in your higher self, in the universe, in God, and whatever it is that you believe in. That's what I put my trust into. But knowing that something, as long as you truly in your heart of hearts say, I don't know I'm still doing this, but I am, because I really want to, something in me is telling me it's not time to stop yet, just because, you know, I don't own 5 stores around the country, and I'm not, you know, like flying out doing trunk shows at the best fine jewelry stores in the world right now. That might, you know, I certainly have goals. Don't worry, I have very concrete goals that are in my own brain. And some of them I've really been able to accomplish. But it's understanding that continuously going in the direction of what makes you excited, what makes you really, what makes your brain say, oh my God, this is such a good idea, like starting a YouTube channel. Honestly, that was the craziest. That was the craziest because for a while, I did what I thought needed to be done. I have worked with 2 PR companies who are truly, like, everybody I still talk to and I still love so much, but I kind of thought that that's how you had to do it. I thought that you had to be signed to a PR agency. I thought that you had to, which still works very much so, but works very much so in accordance with a very specific, you know, budget and financial investment in that kind of a sense. At a certain point, I realized I can actually, I'd rather invest me, my whole entire self, and invest my personal person, invest me, what I just said. I make my whole life, hopefully, so it's like not just aligned with my brand, but my brand. That the feedback that I always got from the people in the weight, you know, very high level successful PR or marketing or whatnot, or even just like, you know, talking to stores, talking with anybody on that side, people always said, I like your brand because I like you talking about it. Because and that sounds so, I can't believe I feel like I'm sounding so, I don't know, arrogant or something, but I didn't have faith in myself. I maybe did somewhere, but the faith that I have now was not actualized then. And so I thought, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know anything about this side of the business, so I need your help. You need to do this. Goes back to my previous points, is I didn't understand that I can become, not just become, I can really, truly do what is actually happening, which is merging my entire life with my brand in a way that feels hopeful, that I genuinely want to right now be making this video for you guys, making videos, talking to you, growing this community, whether it be like how do handbags tie into this? They're accessories, and I wear the same thing every day. I get to choose one of these beautiful accessories behind me, but everything is anchored with my own pieces, you know what I mean? It's like my accessories kind of become a part of each other. And it's such a passion of mine that hopefully everything is connected. And so understand, I know it's a weird thing to say, like, how does this tie into patience? But knowing that the right things will come at the right time, whether they're in this very moment right now, they exist. They still exist. Success, you know, everything, whatever. I kind of want to say that in quotes, like quote unquote success, financial success, whatever success, notoriety, whatever it is that you are desiring in your brand, whether it just be to support your family with your brand, or whether it be to, I don't know, tour the world with a band that you have, or an idea that you have, or, you know, sell like make a new alcohol product or something and sell that all over the world. Whatever it might be, know that if you have that idea, if you can't stop thinking about it, it exists. I know I sound like a crazy person, but again, you have to have a little bit of that. I definitely have a lot of that trust, because I know that me kind of what was I gonna say? Like the opposite of give, like taking control, but then giving up the expectations, of how, you know, of how I would become like in the future. I do not have a family yet. I don't have my own kids yet, but like I've always had this vision of myself, like being a cool working mom who still gets to raise their kids, you know, like fully be really present in that world, but still like, oh, I just have to pop over to a meeting and still be designing and still feel like I am able to have my own thing, have my own, you know, again, my like follow my highest passions as well. And hopefully have something where my kids can be like, oh my God, like see what goes into loving something that you do, see what goes in behind the scenes. I feel like I got that from so many of my different family members growing up, that maybe that's why it's in my brain to be like, I want to be that. I want to put all of these things that I saw into myself, into my one person, which I don't know. I could have kids one day and completely be like, oh, this is way too much for me. Or I could be more motivated. I don't know. I honestly don't know, but I think that is my highest goal. That's my highest vision, is wanting to grow something that, again, can kind of like, I don't know, can be for the rest of my life. Like, it sounds really crazy, but grow something that, yes, I've put a lot of time. A lot of my friends, I'm sure, would say I really, how do we put this nicely, Sophia? Really, you know, allocated a lot of time to myself. And a lot of people, I'm sure, criticize that, but I think I know. And that is my biggest point. I know you guys probably, I don't know what I was expecting in this video. I don't know what you were expecting, but I'm so grateful. Please put any questions down below. I love all of you so much, and I'm so grateful for you guys for watching. Bye, guys.